Yeah, our goals for Summer Split is obviously to get top 2, but we go game by game. We want to win everyone. Our first day was a pretty mess up. I think we kind of lacked strategy a bit, but we will improve and we will give our every best for every team.
Welcome back, everybody, here to Moscow, Russia for the last match of the day, and it's going to be an exciting one.
Друзья, последний матч сегодняшнего дня – это матч, которого все ждали. Давайте поаплодируем немножко, чтобы зарядить наших игроков.
Time to introduce our teams. First up, on the blue side, your home crowd team. Give it up for Gambit Gaming! Side. Give him some love as well. Give it up for SK Gaming. Fantastic atmosphere here. So let's go over to our commentators, Joe and Quickshot for the English stream, and Avi Yartum and Yuvi Frax for the Russian stream.
Cheers, Shocks. Our final game of the night is, of course, going to be Gambit feeling confident here on home soil against an SK who, honestly, are in desperate need of a victory.
Yeah, there's no other words for it. They're sitting at the bottom of the table now, and it was actually good to see the camera on them because there was a lot of smiles on the team, and I think when you've got your back up against the wall, you really need to find some energy to put on your best performance.
Yeah, and it is energy sapping here, not just the fact that they have lost already here and they're not looking in good shape in terms of the league table, but they're in front of a big audience. The lights themselves, we know it as well as anyone. They literally sap the energy out of you as well. And these guys have to be so concentrated throughout this game that they must be absolutely cream crackered by the end of the day.
There's the added pressure of dealing with those 1,600 people. I said it earlier, it's the 1,605-man Gambit team that they're dealing with.
That's a big team to go up against. Let's have a look at the teams then. Well, only 5 this time for Gambit. We couldn't fit all the names in there of the crowd. Of course, their top laner here, Darian. In the jungle, we have Diamond Prox. In the mid lane, Alex Ich. And their bottom lane of Genja and Darker.
So I like Darker as well. He's actually been darked out of the photo based on his nickname. Down for SK Gaming, of course, Kevin up in that top lane, Hercubot in the jungle, Ocelot with his Raw, Scream, and Candy Panda and Nif as the duo lanes.
Well, last weekend, Gambit had 2 early losses before bouncing back and winning 3. This is the second time that these teams are going to meet, and last weekend, an out-of-shape SK Gaming put up their first real fight of the campaign against Gambit.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it, because they, SK Gaming got off to a terrible start, losing 4 of those games, and while they were still losing, each consecutive loss was less severe than the one before.
Better.
Yes, they got better at losing, if I can use that term. So one of the things that they were able to do is able to overcome Gambit in the final game of the weekend. It was a close game and back and forth, etc. But it's one that we'll have to see how SK actually managed to play from then till now. Having to transpose that performance, having seen what everybody else has done, and having to deal with the losses they've already got. That's another big psychological battle to overcome.
Yeah, and Gambit, if we look back into the spring split, they had this brilliant record against SK Gaming actually coming. I think it was 11 or 12 for 0 before they actually won that one. So bit of a revenge game here, I think, for Gambit. And you have to imagine that in front of this home crowd, this amazing Russian crowd, they've been brilliant all weekend. They, honestly, I can attest to this, they love Gambit, like, really love them. We went outside for dinner, which is actually in the lobby here of the venue, and Diamond was actually on stage doing basically an AMA kind of thing where they all threw questions in a box and he read some out. And there were, I think, 1,000 people just stood there.
It was massive.
Watching and cheering for Diamond as he read out their answers.
And it was so encouraging as well, because while they were busy, while he was on stage chatting, Diamond just had this great presence that we don't actually see in him when he is speaking English. He's not as confident because it's not his native tongue. And the audience was just soaking it up and absolutely loving it. So they won their lost their first 2 games of the split and jumped back to it. And we'll see how well they do as we're getting very, very close to jumping into Champion Select.
So let's have a look then at what you guys at home think here. Of course, you can still vote for the team that you think is going to win this one over on LOLesports.com. And there's still a little bit of time to get those votes in there right now. 81% to 19% in favor, of course, of Gambit.
I think it's a little bit one-sided, but I think rightfully so. You're talking about a middle-of-the-table team against one of the bottom-of-the-table teams. So we are almost ready to get this underway. Just taking a look at the lobby. Most of the players are in there, so we should hopefully be getting up to par soon enough. And one of the things that we're going to have to keep an eye on in terms of this matchup is how well Darker performs. It's his second to last game of the weekend, I believe, and there's a lot of talk saying we'll see how he does it at DreamHack, how he does in Moscow, and then Gambit will decide if they're actually going to put him in play. And his Zyra is his most outstanding champion.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's not technically confirmed as a Gambit starter just yet. He's come in here for DreamHack for the first weekend, here in Moscow for the second weekend. We're actually talking to him a little bit earlier on and saying, you got it lucky, Darker. You're coming in here after 2 weeks of playing for Gambit and playing in front of a local crowd. The other guys have had to wait years for this privilege to get here to Moscow to play in front, against big international teams.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's going to play into their favor as well, because as the new guy, not only has he had to acclimatize to this massive, professional scene and these LAN environments, having the home crowd is going to play into your favor. It's going to make you a little bit more confident, and it's something that Gambit have actually tried. They tried out AP Master Yi last week. I'm not 100% sold on that from Alex Sich, and I know it's being reworked as well, so it's not going to be around very long. But I had to apologize to him last week for questioning his Orianna. It is something I will never do again, and my bad for even bringing it up, because he went 4-0-10 against the Lemon Dogs. Unkilled, and if you remember, the dramatic command protects right near the end.
Yeah, and this, of course, as I said before, is that rematch from the Spring Split where SK finally managed towards the end of the season to take down Gambit. Something that's been a long time coming. But if you look at current records and, where we stand at this stage of the tournament or of the league in the Spring Split, this is where it really matters. This is where it all comes down to it, because, quite frankly, they have to win. Their position in the league table says they have to win here against Gambit. You can see there some interesting fan-made signs and what have you. A lot of fan-made signs, to be honest with you. And as we said, a lot of Gambit fans here in Russia. Would have thought it.
Yeah, who would have guessed? That's unheard of from where we are right now. The lobby is filling up, guys, so we will be jumping into the final game of the day in just a few moments' time. And I definitely want to see what Gambit are going to pull out from their sleeves, because we've seen a couple of different champion compositions from them. Remember that this is SK's second game of the day as well. They lost to Lemon Dogs earlier. They managed to get Jace, and while it did work very well for them, Kevin just didn't have that same destruction of everyone impact that he really needed to have with that champion to control the mid game.
Yeah, and that's funny you should say that about Gambit, because they've had some picks which I wouldn't have predicted. Darian pulling out Lissandra was definitely an interesting choice there. Not an interesting choice, Lissandra's a fantastic champion, but I didn't expect Darian actually to bring that one out. We saw Alex playing the Lissandra as well up till now, and Genja has had a really good record. He's actually really high up the table coming into today's play, I think in 4th position in the KDA stats. So he's had, for me, a very good start, considering the fact that he's lost his long-time support player, Edward.
Currently sitting on 6.7 KDA, as you pointed out, and very interestingly played that Ashe to great effect as well. It is probably one of the most famed Season 2 champions. It's probably a champion everybody learns to play on, who you play in the tutorial and whatnot. And I'll see what he does pick up this time. Listen to that crowd.
Are they cheering SK there? I can't quite work it out.
I'm sure that's what they're saying. I'm sure that's exactly what they're saying.
It's a disco in there as well.
If we have any epileptic viewers, I apologize right now. The flashing lights will end shortly as we bring up the Champion Select screen. We are into picks and bans. The first ban is for Gambit on home soil. First pick, first ban. A lot of support for the local team.
A hell of a lot of support. And we shouldn't forget, before they were called Gambit, they were Moscow 5, a team born and bred, I guess we can say, here in the city which we are currently in. But we are going to get into picks and bans then. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of this game. The first ban's coming out. Twisted Fate for Gambit, Evelyn for SK Gaming.
So one of the things that is very interesting is then Nunu follows that up. Nunu, a champion that is very, very powerful on live on 3.8. But we're not playing on 3.8, we're playing 3.7, but we've seen a large number of bans targeted at him. And I think that's just a testament to how many games are being played on live on 3.8. It's the comfort pick. So even though he's not OP in this patch, so to speak, we still don't want to deal with him because you have so much game time with that guy.
Well, let's not forget that the jungle buffs are still in there for him at this point, so he's still pretty strong. We saw that at DreamHack as well, which is why he's still drawing a few of those bans. Thresh was the final ban here for Gambit. Lissandra taken out by SK. They're like, nope, 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 don't want to deal with Lissandra.
So Shen and Elise are still free and available, as is Jace. So I would expect some of those to be maybe the high priority picks here for Gambit of SK, as is Jarvan as well, another big one. So we've been seeing Diamond Proc sort of falling back to the likes of Xin Zhao as his jungle. So if he goes that route, we'll see the Jarvan coming in most likely.
Yeah, I could imagine that as well. And it will be the Xin that's taken out here by SK Gaming. But will they go for a Jarvan first pick? Hercubot is another jungler who excels with that Jarvan. And indeed, Shen is still left open there. So that is another possibility for Gambit.
Depending on how Gambit want to play this, they could even go for something like that Zyra. Because it is free and because they know how impactful Darker is in team fights.
Yeah.
It is an aggressive support. It is a defensive support. It is, it is reactive as well as proactive. So it's a fantastic champion that fits practically any composition. I don't know if Gambit are going to value it highly enough to be first pick, though. So that's the thing. I think Jarvan, Shen, maybe Zyra would be talking points.
Well, let's have a look. 15 seconds Gambit still have here to lock in their first choice. And, well, I wonder how much pressure they're actually feeling from this crowd, because it can work both ways. Looks like it's going to be the Shen first in there. But that pressure can happen to be, oh no, it's Jace. Last second switch, you'd already written it down there.
I shouldn't have.
Throwing the spanner in the works at the last second.
I had to scratch my notes. Not cool, bro.
That pressure of the crowd can obviously work both ways on you. It can sometimes load a little bit too much onto you.
It can, but one of the things that does play into Gambit's favor, they've never really been a team that's cracked under pressure.
That's a very true fact.
Admittedly, they do have a slightly different composition, but I think out of all of the teams, they're one of the few that actually thrive in this environment when there's this many eyes and this many people judging them and going, how are you going to do? What are you going to do? I think they're a team that likes to stand up and say, I baited and outsmarted my opponents and, scream from the hilltops at their sirens.
Not anymore. We've got 20 seconds still to go here for SK. They're taking a little while getting their picks in, and they say, well, you're not going to go for that Shen, but we want it. They're going to take Shen straight in there. Obviously a big pick there for Kevin. Played a lot of it over in the spring split. We're also going to have a Sona. We talked about Nif earlier on and how in the spring split he hit a lot of 3-4-man crescendos, which won a lot of games for SK.
Yeah, and it's one of those champions that if you can do well with, can help you win team fights, but if you fall behind, there's very little you can do. That crescendo ends up being used very defensively under towers, and unless you do a flash crescendo that your team then follows up on, you're practically you can't really help as much in team fights. Whereas a Thresh, whereas a Zyra, they can continue helping out. We do see that Diamond is hovering over that Jarvan, so not only denying it from Hercubot, but also picking it up for himself. It's one of the champions that he's been quite outspoken about, Jarvan and Xin, and talking about their relative power in the pro scene.
Well, he's not got his hands on his mouse, on his mouse or keyboard. He doesn't play with two mice. That would make him an even more incredible player, I assume. But it looks like it will be that Jarvan here just from that, and the Varus pickup as well for Genja. As I said, done really well with Genja. Before this weekend's play was actually 4 games played, 3 wins. So fantastic record.
He had a pretty good KDA, if I recall correctly, as well, 7.5. So that's higher than his average on Varus. So a good champion, and you've got some good combinations here. Demacian Standard is going to give some attack speed to both Jace and Varus, which means if they're attacking towers, it's going to get shredded in an instant. You've got great long-range poke from Jace and Varus. You've got good initiation. So I really like the synergies. Right now from SK, you've got defensive lineup. So we're going to need a lot of damage. High DPS mid laner, high DPS AD carry, which tells me Ocelot may go for the likes of a Kha'Zix or a Zed, because his Kha'Zix worked very, very well last weekend.
Right now, SK are cycling through AD carries with Candy Panda. He's stopped on Ashe here.
I don't know if that's the right choice. And I'm even less convinced about a Volibear as well. Because now you're going to have, fair enough, Volibear can finish people off, right? So if you jump in there with that Frenzy, you get that munch onto somebody, you will deal damage based on their missing health. But if you're not able to get missing health in place, the Frenzy's not as effective. So there's going to have to be a high damage dealing champion from Ocelot, and Orianna might be the pick if it's not taken from Alexic. It's a champion that we know Ocelot can play. It'll work well with Shen. It'll work well with Volibear. And I think that's maybe what he's hoping to go towards. And we'll see if Alexic wants to steal it.
We'll see if he lets that one through. The Volibear, just to mention that statistically, we did see Hercubot, of course, playing that pretty regularly, actually, in the spring split. Was his most played jungler. 5 wins out of 6 games in the split itself. So, again, really good statistics from that. But, of course, he has had changes since then as well. So we'll see how that one all goes. Right now, Darker is cycling through himself, and we've already talked about this, Sarah. We think that will be his champion.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident on that one. I think he's had very good performances on LAN with it, and I think he's been very happy with how he's played. We do see the Elise has been locked in, so that'll be Darian playing Elise. It'll be Alexic playing Jace, so we'll see if he can replicate the performances of Froggen from last weekend. We don't have a traditional tank from Gambit, and while Jarvan is, tanky, junglers, they're not going to get as tanky as like a top lane tank, like a Shen will be, for example. And he doesn't have the innate survivability that Volibear does. So if Gambit get caught, if an Ashe arrow is followed up by a fling, followed up by a taunt, there's a good chance they'll die. But it really means SK have to hit their skill shots.
So then, what are SK going to finish off with here? We've talked about it before, is that mid lane for Ocelot. Speculating with a possible Kha'Zix here. Would be up against Jace, which, automatically means that he can farm, of course, with those Void Spikes, but
after 6,
Jace is going to be putting in a bit of damage onto him the whole time if he tries to get in there for those last hits.
Yeah, the opening levels are going to be so difficult, and we'll see what they decide to do. Now, he's actually gone for different pick. Not damage and not survivability utility that a Orianna was going to offer. Kennen is very popular in the current meta, and I do like it against a Jarvan and a Jace that'll jump at you with the hammer form and the dash. But it's a bit of an all-in champion. I also think it's lacking a little bit of damage. I don't feel like SK has got a true hardcore damage dealer like a Jace poke, like the percentage HP on Elise, like a hard carry like Varus.
Yeah, and Candy Panda, I'm really interested to see how he brings his Ashe to the table as well. We have seen it from him previously, but it's not a champion that he brings to the table very often. And this may be a bit of a challenge set by Genja yesterday, who played a fantastic bit of Ashe. To be honest, the thing is, I don't know if this was brought up yesterday, but he actually got to, I think, 1800 elo playing Ashe only, did Genja. So he certainly knows his way around that champion. Whether Candy Panda's on the same page, we'll find out.
Well, I want to find out how he's going to build Ashe in this game, because Genja went Tear of the Goddess into Infinity Edge, Bloodthirster, and Mirror Mana. So didn't go for any additional attack speed yesterday, just really getting all the mana to practically have his Frost Shot on permanently. That will work quite nicely against the likes of Elise, the likes of Jarvan who want to jump at you. But the key is definitely going to be on those enchanted crystal arrows. If a good stun lands, Zyra, Varus, Jace, Elise can all go down incredibly quickly, as that is actually the crowd, but the light doesn't give it justice, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Glow in the dark. That's what we're going for here. Although our monitor's darker, so maybe you guys at home can actually see more than we can here. I can just see someone's glasses glaring.
The reflection.
The reflection of the colours from behind the players. So here we go then. We're going to jump into game. It's our final one of the night here, Saturday night in Moscow. Gambit versus SK Gaming. And, well, we've talked about it. 2 teams in 2 very different situations when it comes to the league table itself. SK really need a win.
There's no other situation for them other than picking up a victory. We've seen some strong words from lots of different people in SK Gaming, and Ocelot himself, when we were saying good luck, have fun, just before the game was saying, well, we don't have a choice, man. We don't have a choice. So we'll see if that amount of pressure, if that amount of eyes on his team will help spur him on, or if it's going to be too much pressure and it's going to cause them to crack.
Well, we shall be finding out here in the next 30 to 50 minutes. Hopefully a little bit longer. That'd be, I'd like to have a classic here between SK and Gambit, but early starts, pretty standard starting items here across the board. Crystalline Flask for Release, that Rejuve Bead for Shen, Doran's Blades across the board there as well. Support items are all normal, nothing really crazy.
There's going to be pressure on Darien in this top lane because he is going to be able to bully around Shen a little bit in that lane. He's got more upfront damage at these lower levels, slightly more effective sustain that doubles up as damage onto your opponents if he switches into that spider form and gets his little spider babies to attack Kevin. If Kevin gets some assistance from Hercubot's Volibear, it can go the other way, but effectively there's going to be pressure on Darien to try and 1v1 out that lane.
So, a very pensive start, I think we can say here. Not really a lot going on, and that just shows you SK can't afford any mistakes. Gambit don't want to show their fans on stage here any mistakes, that's for sure. They want to come out and play a flawless game, and it'd be the best possible outcome if they could stomp SK before the 20 minutes are up here, to be honest. But I don't think that's quite going to be the way that it goes. See the start here for the junglers. Diamond going to be kicking it off with the blue buff on the other side. It is, of course, Hercubot doing the same.
So we'll see how well this transitions into the rest of the jungle and then eventually into ganks. We are going to see straight up lanes, so we're not going to have any of this lane swapping shenanigans. And with Genja and Dark here doing the double golems on the bottom lane, they're going to hit that level 2 a little bit sooner, get those grasping roots out, and basically just try to catch Nif out. One of the things that Nif is going to be so careful of, 1 or 2 little bits of, poke could result in him being dead if he gets caught by this grasping roots, because Sona is so squishy at these lower levels.
Super squishy, and once they hit level 2, that might be it. It's actually down in the bottom here. Genja taking a lot of damage, has to use his barrier. SK can't quite get through, but there you saw Candy Panda hitting level 2 first, instantly piles on the pressure.
Basically because of the wave. So because Genja and Darker didn't kill the wave as quickly as they needed to, they didn't hit that all-important level 2. Diamondprox is a level 3 Jarvan. He's hanging around behind. There is no barrier on that Varus. He's on 105 hit points. If he gets hit again, he's in trouble, but there's Diamond on Candy.
Yep, going in onto him. Actually goes for Nif, who was hovering over that flash key, I'm sure, there as he flashed away from it. Diamond taking a bit of damage as he goes, but that is, flash down for SK Gaming, as we are going to see Diamond go back in here onto Candy Panda. Apparently the rest of Gambit's bottom lane didn't get the memo, though. They were walking back to the turret. Bit of confusion between the Russians.
Well, maybe for the first time ever, the crowd speaking in Russian is going to distract the players on stage if they're yelling and screaming loud enough. But Genja going so low again. 70-odd hit points, playing very brave, sitting on that Doran's Blade. As far as sustain goes, that is all that he has. It's 0% lifesteal, but sitting on 17 and then 8% armor pen. He really is going to hurt hard with that piercing arrow.
He's going to hurt hard, but he's got to survive through it. And right now he could do with a bit of lifesteal, to be honest. He's got no sustain like his opponents have from that heal of Nif. And you can see that Gambit already are leaving that lane. They decide it's not going to be worth it. Volibear coming down into the bottom, and SK main try and put down a bit of early damage onto that first turret.
Yeah, the key here is going to see how much CS can be denied by the tower, because even with all that pressure, Genja is still only 3 creeps behind. So you got to give credit to him. Up in the top lane, Kevin was struggling at these lower levels against Elise. He took a lot of damage, but right now that Darien's running a little low on mana, he's also been focusing more on harass than on farming, which you can see with that very small difference and the big wave pushing into Kevin.
Oh, I see Ignite actually used there by Darien. I think he was feeling a bit of pressure there as Diamond is going to come into this top lane as well, just stabs away at the minions, then walks back out, just to show Kevin if he wants to walk into this top lane, he damn well will do and make an impact.
Be aware I am here and I'm willing to fight you is basically what Diamondprox is signaling. That's the second time he showed his face on the map, once in the bottom lane to help out and actually got the barrier and flash from Candy Panda and Nif, and obviously the second time just to keep Kevin on the back foot. We do see Darien once again using his Ignite very early on in the laning phase, and it's most likely just to give him that additional +5 ability power, which makes him a little bit more threatening, gives him a little bit more pressure and presence in that lane, but it's not going to be available if he does get Kevin low.
So on that last trip home, both AD carries actually picking themselves up a second Doran's Blade, pots, and a ward here for Ash as well, just going to prove that it doesn't have to be a support player that picks up those wards the entire time. 32-35 CS though. Funnily enough, Genja actually ahead on that front as a grasping root is going to land here onto Nif. There goes a piercing arrow through, and you see the damage that you were talking about earlier.
So much damage, and all of that armor penetration from Genja is just going to stack up with the power of that piercing arrow. It has been reworked in 3.7, so the damage has been taken from the E and into the Q for Varus, and it is what Genja is leveling first. 2 points into his piercing arrow and a single on his W and his E.
Right now, Volibear is there. Jarvan was actually waiting over the other side as well, and that hawk shot of Ash obviously could prove to be pretty vital. You never quite know when that's going to be called into action, when you just, all right, well, just check out over there, and oh, they're actually inside of the brush. Good job we didn't actually just walk forward. This top lane, though, Darian and Kevin continue to hammer away at each other, keeping the CS actually very, very even on this top side.
So it's definitely playing into their favor. Neither jungler has really had a very big impact in this top lane. Diamond Prox gently showed himself in lane, pretty much, you know, telling Kevin that he's there and preventing him from going aggressive at all. But what we do see is that Kevin has backed already. He's got that second rejuvenation bead as well as a null magic mantle, whereas Darian is still sitting on a fair chunk of change, 700 gold right now. Actually, he's picked up a Dawn's Ring as well. He had the flask pots and ward as a start, so pretty passive top lane so far.
One thing that Darian didn't do is buy a ward, and that's allowed Hercubot to sneak in here. They're going to go for Darian. There is the repel coming out. There is the flip back, but can they lock him down? Good taunt coming in here, and this could be it. There's a flash away. Darian, though, is burning down from the ignite. He's going to have one more tick. No, not quite enough. Darian escapes. Close stuff. The crowd, breath of relief, I think.
44 HP, and the fling from Volibear from his Rolling Thunder was just in the wrong direction. It flung Elise to the side instead of backwards, and if one more auto attack had come down from Kevin, that would have been enough to kill him. But unfortunately, just not being in the right angle when he flashed cost Hercubot that potential first blood.
So, bottom wave pushed up here on towards that turret as Alexich is actually going to go in on towards Ocelot here, but he turns it around. But I think Ocelot is losing this one in general. Shock Blast not landing, though. And Ocelot finds himself safe, pops a couple of pots on, says, I'm back in action.
And this is the first time we've actually looked in that mid lane at all. So, trading that Slicing Maelstrom down in the bottom lane, though, Genja is taking a lot of damage from Candy Panda, but Nif is the one that ate the Ignite.
Yep, Nif eating that Ignite up there. He has his Ignite available, so a good volley, and Nif able to get in position to get that Ignite down would be interesting. Here is Diamond doing what Diamond traditionally does so well, which is trying to steal away those buffs. Actually, is going to get taunted up here by Kevin. I'll tell you what, Diamond needs to be a little bit careful about this.
Hercubot is not interested at all. No. He just went straight onto the red buff and said, Kevin, bro, no. Kevin, no. Kevin, dude, I don't want to fight. He just picks up his red buff and does go continue on his merry way. You're talking about the bottom lane. The Ash Arrow is available, so like you said, a good Crystal Arrow into Volley plus Ignite should actually be enough to take Genja down. The question is, are Candy Panda and Nif brave enough to make that combo happen? Ash does have enough mana. Oh, no, does not at the moment. Sitting on 110, needs to get 150. So Candy Panda biding his time, waiting until he is able to do that combo.
Yep, and we'll have to have obviously a bit more in there for that volley to come out as well afterwards. So let's have a bit of a wait for this one. There's the piercing arrow going through. Hercubot is just going to be starting off his blue, and actually will finish his blue here as well, of course, with that cannon in the middle lane for SK Gaming. Nif just pops a plant away, says, nope, Darky, you're not going to bring them to life. We'll leave them as they are.
Yeah. Standing on those seeds, preventing them coming up. While the blue buff is being taken by Hercubot, Diamond Prox picked up his red buff. So that's the second spawns that are up. That's a flash crescendo into arrow.
Oh, this is going to be brilliant. There's a flash from Genja. Is a Stranglethorn's going to be enough? No, not quite. First blood for Ash. Hercubot going to take a good couple of tower hits there, but SK chain it together. That's exactly what this combo needs to do.
And the order was swapped around. So instead of relying on the Ash Arrow into crescendo, they went, the likelihood of a flash crescendo is significantly less. It's going to catch them off guard. They're not going to be able to react. And SK pick up the first blood in the game. I actually think I heard the crowd cheering that on.
I don't.
It could have been cries of pain or could have been cries of joy. I'm going to be optimistic here and say they were supporting the foreigners.
There may be some non-Russians in the audience today here that are...
Not anymore, there's not.
Yeah, they've just got thrown out by security. No crowd trouble here, please. There goes the arrow, the flag from Jarvan over into the blue buff. Just seeing that one is gone, which if you looked at Volibear a little bit earlier on, you would have realised anyway. But as Kennen comes back into the mid lane here, able to defend off, we can see that Ocelot is behind on the CS now by round about 20. We have the Man Immune already done for Jace with the Doran's Blade and Boots. On the other side, Kennen going straight in for that Haunting, guys. Got those couple of Doran's Blades earlier on just to get that auto attack damage down.
If I remember correctly, it was SK beating Evil Geniuses last week to pick up their first victory.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening in that matchup, Ocelot was behind Froggen's Lux and he was playing Kha'Zix. He fell 20 to 30 CS behind, but didn't give up any kills, was not outplayed totally. We'll get back to that as Kevin is going to pick a fight here with Darian.
There is the repel coming in. Of course, he's going to come down right on top of him. Diamond actually tanking up the turret here, and he's gone really, really low from that one. But look at this, Jace is coming up. Kennen's coming up. We could see a big amount of action here on this top lane. 11 minutes 40 in.
Yeah, Flash and Ignite is available for Alexic if he wants to pop that down, and as soon as Ocelot is going to be spotted in vision here, they might jump in.
Oh, but Shock Blast actually missing here. Darian going very, very low. Here comes a slicing Maelstrom that's going to stun Alexic up. He somehow gets away. That is a master troll from Diamond. Gets the Cataclysm over. Kevin actually taking a blast there. Diamond decides not to go in, but what a move coming out of Diamond. Cataclysm flashes out, says see you later.
Cool guys don't look at explosions and cool Jaces don't stay in their Cataclysms. He flashes to safety. Kevin is blown up. Kevin face checks a Shock Blast accelerated combo and dies.
Lost for words on that one. That was probably didn't need to happen from their side of things, as Alex is still actually around this top lane here. His Shock Blast did land on toward Ocelot as they tried to push this lane out. But let's have a look at things here, because things did happen in that bottom lane. Of course, SK took the first turret of the game. They're going to be stealing golems here. They are 700, 800 gold in the lead, give or take, after 12 minutes 50, tied on the kills.
And that kill in the top lane, the one that was evened up for Gambit, was blind. That was just a prediction Shock Blast coming out of Alex. They had no wards up there, and it managed to catch Kevin. You have to think he should have backed off. He was very, very low. He took a lot of damage from the lane as they were trying to chase. Nevertheless, SK pick up the first tower. They're now on the Dragon. They get the Dragon as well, and that's going to give them a 2,000 gold lead, which is a great position to be in at this stage of the matchup.
Yep, and this is the team that we feel like I'm almost repeating myself, but their situation right now is so that they are bottom of the table. They need victories, they need points, and they need, honestly, probably a confidence boost as well, and this would give it to them if they can beat Gambit in front of their own fans.
Yeah, especially because their only other victory was against Evil Geniuses, teams that traditionally they had a bit of difficulty with in the spring split. So, you know, if they can find their form and do well against the other bottom four teams, it'll play into their favor, but it all starts by picking up wins here and now against the big boys of the league, as it were. Gambit, I think, are sitting in third position, unless my memory is completely off. And with that small early deficit, they're still looking good. They're still 1,100 gold behind, and that's thanks to some very good CS numbers across the board.
Yeah, very good indeed. And if you look at them, Candy Panda actually is 10 CS in the lead there. But other than that, Gambit looking good.
And you have to attest that, first of all, to the level 2 damage that they were able to put down, forced Genja out of lane.
Yeah.
Then later on, the kills that they picked up as well. So there's been more ganks and more pressure on this bottom lane. In addition, oh, beautiful smite. Hercubot just strolls around the corner, smites away the big Wraith and says, you will not take my camp. I will use my summoner spell to pick that one up. And as you've just pointed out to me as well, it's the second, or no, this is the third time that I think we've seen Genja go the triple Doran Blade. I'm still not entirely sold by it, and I'm starting to think he goes this route when he's behind in lane. Because when we've seen him winning his lane, he doesn't go that route. So this may be a defensive, reactive build, and I'm sure somebody on Reddit or Twitch chat will be able to help me out with that one.
Well, maybe we can even get a word with the man himself at some point throughout the weekend and ask him about that one. Right now, SK are in the Gambit jungle. It's not something Diamond takes lightly. He does not like people in his own jungle, especially not stealing away his buffs. In the meantime, though, Alex has said, that's fine, we're going to go in for your mid lane turret, and look at this, they're going to come through. The crescendo actually landing, hammers Ocelot away. There's the acceleration gate down, but Ocelot picks up the kill. Diamond is in there, he will try and get out. Darker's off to the side of the Strangled Thorns come down. Hercubot can't quite get in there for the fling, though, and that will be just a 1-for-0. Good kill, though, it's Alex Hitch that dies.
That was a whole lot of ultimates used just to catch Alex out. I don't feel like Ocelot's Slicing Maelstrom was really needed in that particular engagement, but the rest of the ultimates, I completely agree with. Another great flash crescendo from Nif. He's hitting multiple targets. They've lost the top lane tower, but now SK Gaming putting pressure in the mid as Darian and Kevin go head-to-head.
They go head-to-head, but with that Giant's Belt and the Ruby Crystal on to Kevin right now. He is pretty solid here when it comes to being able to take all that damage from a Darian who's gone Negatron Cloak as his first medium item, I guess we can call it there, along with those 2 Doran's rings. So he's not too much, he's not too damaging right now, at least.
I imagine he's going to be working towards the likes of that Abyssal Scepter because Elise's base numbers are so good. You do tend to just build penetration as quickly as possible, and we actually usually see the likes of Sorcerer's Shoes and Haunting Guys, but this will do a similar position, and when you're going up against a Shen who does a fair amount of magic damage and a cannon, the extra magic resist is always going to play into your favor.
Right now, Alex is trying to push this advantage in turrets in the mid lane even further. I say advantage, they're of course tied up now after SK pushed it back just a couple of moments ago. He now has that brutalizer in there, so his poke's starting to stack up in terms of damage and how much of a possible impact it could have on especially this kind of situation on sieging those turrets.
Now remember as well that Ocelot was 20 to 30 CS behind. Now he's only 10 or 12, so exactly the same as we've seen him doing against Evil Geniuses, and unlike what we've seen him doing against Fnatic. He struggled against Fnatic, but he was losing 1v1s, and Peke was able to continually kill him. Ocelot is not making those same mistakes now, so he's definitely stepped up his game from last weekend to this weekend, and his ultimates are going to be very, very crucial in these team fights, because if he doesn't lock people down with Nif's Sona, they're going to be in trouble. The Ash Arrow is out, and it is not going to connect. Field gold for SK Gaming.
Yeah, gold. Not quite.
Not quite.
Straight through the middle of them. Points for style, I think, is what he gets for that, but that obviously doesn't really count to anything when it comes to the outcome of this game. So, Dragon, 1 minute and 15 seconds. Who is going to be set up best for that one? We see a couple of wards down from Gambit, however, no pink ward in position, and SK have a pink ward with Nif, so that's something that they can sort out.
Oh, there's 2 members of Gambit up here in the top lane. Ocelot is about to get dived on. He's about to dodge the cocoon. Here comes Shen.
Yeah, Shen going to get involved in this one, and Alex is now the man that's going to be in trouble. He gets stunned up there, and Shen actually didn't make it up there. The crescendo will be enough, and now they're going to look for kill number 2 on towards Darian. He takes a turret hit. There's the rest of the team from Gambit just underneath him. Candy Panda, can he get the slow off? Not quite, but the rest of them are fighting underneath. Darker goes down to a chomp of Hercubot. Don't think he's got what it takes to get over to Diamond, who will slide away, though. Crazy stuff.
Fantastic, fantastic call coming up from Kevin. That ultimate was actually interrupted there. I think he cancelled it himself, and what a good call. Nif said, I'm here, I'm top, I can help. You don't need to be there. Continue split pushing. They managed to pick up 2 kills up there in the top lane, and now they're pushing down onto the mid lane. Actually, they might even roll around to Dragon, because I don't think it was picked up.
Nope, 10 seconds to go until that Dragon is back in play, so that should be theirs. They've had that that earlier Dragon as well, so if anyone's going to have the timing on it, it will be SK. There is Diamond off to the side. He says, I fancy a piece of this action. There is Genja firing the piercing arrow through, and you can see the caution here from SK Gaming. It would actually be a 5 versus 4 there, but they don't want to fight.
And they've got no ultimates left, so they'll know that the Strangled Thorns is down, but they'll also be fully aware that Genja did not use his Chain of Corruption. So you've got 2 AD carries with very heavy crowd control ultimates. However, Varus's will spread like a disease if you are stacked too tightly together. Candy Panda needs to aim much better than his previous attempt in order to land anything.
Where is that arrow going to go in? It is actually going to land on towards Darian. He's a target that they're willing to go for. Ultimate Varus is actually completely whiffed off to the side there. No kill just yet as Elise goes up into the air. Finally finished off by Kevin. Are SK going to keep chasing for this one? No, they're happy with that one kill. They lost out on the Dragon, of course. That was picked up by Genja, who got the final blow to it. And that will be 5-1 to SK in the kills. 27 to, let's call it 26,000 gold now.
So still 1,000 gold difference. That single Dragon has now evened out the score. They're sitting tight on towers, and SK are just making the right decisions to make picks. They were so tightly knit as 5 that I think if they'd played a little more aggressively in the river and said, look, Alex is in our face, go, they may actually have been able to pick up the kills because Gambit were already backing away. They were splitting up. But defensive smart play from SK. If they keep up this pressure, they're looking very, very good as we go into this roaming team fight stage.
The biggest difference in gold right now lies between those two AD carries. The extra farm that Candy Panda has there, 6,500 to 5.8. That's actually slowed down a little bit as Varus just pushed those waves out in the bottom side. And let's not forget those 3 assists as well. Always like to give the assists a mention for Candy Panda in this one. But, you know, his arrow this time around landed onto Elise, which for me is a fine target anyway in that fight.
Elise, Jace, or Varus, those are the 3 that you want to hit because those are the scary targets. And very crucially as well, Genja threw that chain of corruption wide. He threw that to the right. That hit nobody. SK was so tightly knit there in that little, Dragon's Pit entry that if that chain had spread, they probably would have gone down. It would have been a lot more difficult for them to get that kill and escape as unscathed as they actually did.
So here we go then. Gambit trying to force the pressure onto SK, push them a little bit back into their own base. We do see lots of walls down, and look at this. This is typical Gambit now. That turret's down, they realize that they need more control on the map. They're going to steal away the blue buff, which, not the end of the world because of, the fact that Kennen is not there with that mana.
In addition, they just stole the blue buff themselves for SK. So not only did, they lost their buff, they've stole one already. And exactly like you said, they've got 2 energy champions on their team. So blue buff is less important. What it also means is they may actually be donating it to Ashe or Volibear, which means more Rolling Thunders, more Flings, more, chomps, or more importantly for Candy Panda, 1,000,000 times more volleys, just non-stop volley spam under the tower. Right now, Diamond Prox does get that acceleration gate. Nif is way, way, way out of position. He may be forced to flash over this wall. Hercubot's coming to just man-mode it up and say, I want to play. Look at Shen's position. He's toying with Genja. SK are very out of position here.
Yeah, a bit of a bear blockade coming out from Hercubot saying, you're not getting over to my squishy zone, I'm going to protect you like a real bear should. But yeah, that was a bit of a weird positional face-off as they kind of figured that they were both not in the ideal position, that the AD carries down on that bottom side of the map, so probably best just to back off from it, not really go for too much.
I'm glad you pointed that out because when Gambit played Evil Geniuses and lost, it was partially due to the fact that Genja was AFK farming the top or the bottom lane, almost exclusively in the mid game, so he was never with his team when he needed to be. Now you see they've been sending Genja to deal with Kevin Shen. He's the man they've appointed to deal with the split push, and while, that's fine, your AD can probably do that relatively well, even though your opponent's got a Sunfire Cape, Kevin's going to join a team fight with Sands United, and Varus is not going to be able to interrupt it. Right now, Hercubot has flash and fling Diamond Prox backwards. He has a big fight.
Diamond goes in, and they're going to get Nif really low. He does get Crescendo off before he dies here. In fact, he's not dead. He's still alive there for a good couple of seconds afterwards. But right now, it's pretty even. 2 for 2. Alex is right in the middle of them. Double kill coming out for Genja. Can they finish off here? There's another one. In the last man alive here is Kevin. He's dunked down by Alex Itch. And that's an ace for Gambit for 2 deaths.
They could not focus the right target. Genja is untouched. I just said he needed to be with his team when the fights happened, and Genja was there. He has full HP, and you can hear that crowd erupting. They loved that fight. Managing to ace SK Gaming. The inner tower's going down. Alex is just going to push the top lane and keep the pressure onto SK.
Yeah, and let's have a look here at the gold now. Let's see what Genja has got himself up to. 8.2 to 7.6. That gives him the lead now. He brought the CS right back because of the fact that he was down in that bottom lane. And we see that so often from these AD carries. It's, as you said, just about decision making as to when you leave it and when you join the rest of the team. This time, it was a spot-on decision from Gambit. They're now 2,000 gold in the lead. Got 1 turret up over SK. Still behind in kills. but after that one, Genja's going to get a nice burst of power to come and play.
And so importantly in that engagement, the Ash Arrow hit Jarvan, first of all. The crescendo, yes, it did catch Jarvan and interrupted Zyra's ultimate, actually. It delayed that coming down, which was great. It wasn't the right targets. They need to stun up Jace. They need to stun up Varus. Then you've seen Kennen jumping in there. But you see Kevin has been latched onto by Darien, but he's going to taunt him away. Does eat a cocoon. He should get to safety.
Yeah, he's got the heals here from Nif as well. They're just going to speed off, and you just see how scared they are of Darien at this point. I mean, got that Abyssal Scepter in there, got a Chain Vest now for a bit more extra protection. They throw those spiders in, going to be chipping away. That piercing arrow going to be a bit of a pain in the rear end for SK. They've got decent poke on their own side thanks to that Ash volley, but can't really compare that with piercing arrow and the shot blast through the acceleration gate of Alex Ich.
No, not at all. In addition to that, the wave clear that it's going to offer you is so much better than SK's. This is something that I completely missed during Champ Select. Other than the volley, there's practically no safe AoE wave clear, which means defending towers is going to be so difficult for SK Gaming. The range of Jason Varus plays into their favor. SK have said, we want Dragon. The rest of Gambit have said, well, you take it, we'll have Baron happily. Look for a long-range arrow from Ash, most likely to start this engagement.
Well, Crescendo is up there as well. Stan United will be off cooldown here in a second, but they might be too slow to come in. The arrow coming across will manage to land. Ocelot going to dive in there as well. Baron going very, very low. Actually picked up though by Gambit. There's a Crescendo coming in. Ocelot going to go down. They switch over towards Hercubot, and Niffa were trapped inside of the Cataclysm, and it leaves now just Candy Panda knocked up in the air, and Kevin again at the back of that Baron pit. He will flash away, but he's the last man alive for SK.
4 for 1, they couldn't get onto Genja. They couldn't make damage stick. Genja just played so well in that pit. He backed away when he needed to. Alex Ich gave up his life, but for an enemy ace and Baron buff, he is going to be happy with that trade. He is 2-3-4 right now, and Genja, triple Doran's 4-1-5. You hear the crowd erupting as they see him stealing that red buff. 2 members of Gambit are now on the inhibitor turret, while you see Darren going up top to try and shove that lane down. He may even try to pick a fight with Kevin.
And Kevin he's pushed that lane out there. He's a little bit in the middle of nowhere. SK, of course, are going to start to all spawn back in here. But after that Baron, after all the kills, once again, Gambit must be sitting pretty when it comes to cash that they've got to spend on this next trip home. Blue Buff's going to be coming with them here as well. That went over to Diamond, I believe. And yeah, that's it. They're all going to recall. And Bob's your uncle, they're gonna have more gold to spend.
As if their sieging power wasn't, difficult enough to deal with. Now with Baron, it makes it practically impossible for SK unless they all in. Look at Darien coming from the side. There goes Alex. He's caught Ossa.
Going straight in on towards Ocelot. Darien coming in from that side. Can they land it? Shock Blast was all over the place there from Alex. And now we are going to see Hercubot coming in. He's going to get the fling back onto Darien. The arrow comes across the map as well. And Darien, a dead man, can be getting a little bit too clever there.
So a little bit over-aggressive. They thought they could jump onto Ocelot quicker than they actually could. Ocelot actually played that very smartly. He still had his Zhonya's Hourglass available if he wanted to use it, get away from more damage of his opponents. Nevertheless, that is now a 4,500 gold lead in favor of the locals, the Russians of Gambit, and they're definitely looking good. That first Doran's Blade has been sold by Genja, picking himself up another BF sword.
Yeah, and the other items that came in on that last back, Runic Bulwark finish for Diamond Procs, the Locket of the Iron Solari for Darker, along with an Oracle as well, to make sure that they can keep a hold of the control that they have here on the map. Ash with Candy Panda just picking up a static shift and an elixir, so they're expecting a bit of a final fight coming in as well.
That's also, I need power now. I need statistics now. Get that additional on hit. I think it's 100 magic damage from the static shift passive, and just get that now as quickly as possible. Get that additional movement speed, and more importantly, use that elixir of fortitude to give you that additional plus 15 AD. Candy Panda is feeling the pressure, and if he gets a couple of lucky critical hits, it can work out for him. But if not, well, it's a very scary Gambit team to be dealing with. And he's got all that regen from Baron.
Just seen a Warmogs finished off here by Kevin as well, so he is super tanky right now, but as we saw in the last 2 team fights, they don't care about him. They leave him to do whatever he wants, and they'll finish him off, or even just leave him to his own accord later on. Right now, Gambit pushing without response, taking down the inner turret on that top lane. Still one remaining in the bottom lane, but they want inhibitors.
Now what SK did very well in the Baron Pit fight is they got a 3-man crescendo, only missing Genja and Darker, and they managed to focus down Alexic very, very quickly. If they get the same 3-man crescendo, but catch out, say, Alex and Genja, or Genja and Darien, it plays into their favor. They have the ability to burst down one target very, very quickly. They're just going to make a better choice because they left Genja for too long in the Baron Pits.
Now we see the shock blast come flying through. A piercing arrow knocked Candy Panda down to about half HP, and these minion waves do not last very long here. As another shock blast goes firing through. The volatile Spiderling's been thrown in there as well, and Gambit just looking for that way in, just looking to push that one man low enough that says go.
They're also waiting for Nif to run out of mana. All of the poke that they're putting down, hitting as hard as possible. Nif on Sona is pretty good at actually healing up teammates from slow poke teams, but from this consistent non-stop shock blast, Spiderling, piercing arrow, it's actually very difficult to consistently heal through that. So what they were looking for is an opening. Is someone going to overextend? Is someone going to go low? Or is Nif going to run out of mana? None of those things happened, and instead, Gambit decide, we're going to fall back, make sure all of our waves are pushing. You can see the bottom lane was not, and then they'll decide to siege up again. They still got a little bit of time. Actually, Baron has just worn off, so it'll be up in about 2 or 3 minutes' time.
Yeah, Baron in there soon. Alex just pushing that bottom lane now. SK trying to use this opportunity to clear their waves as much as possible as well and slow this one down, try and soak up as much farm in the process. Genja there has just taken that red buff, and that's going to help with the poke, of course, having a reduced cooldown coming through on that piercing arrow. And they must be sat on decent amounts of gold here once again to go home later and spend. SK actually starting to put out a few more wards in their side of the jungle so that they know where Gambit are actually going to be heading and what their plan really is.
In addition, whatever Gambit's plan is, Alex has just got an extra lease on life. Guardian Angel, just going to bring him back to life. You're talking about money and how much they had to spend. Varus has just completed his Infinity Edge. So, Infinity Edge, Bloodthirster, Lost Whisper. Genja is deviating from the Genja build. I'm not sure what to make on that. His Guardian Angel is an item late.
Where is your Guardian Angel? Obviously feeling like he might not need it at this point, but no, 4-1-5, it only takes a bit of mispositioning, and that could be all changed. Dragon is up. Gambit feel the need that they want that one. Bit of extra gold to spend later on, maybe. But with the Baron coming up in 1 minute, it may just be a bit of a delay as they waste time and get ready for that Baron, which may just propel them to the victory.
And look at SK Gaming's wards. It's all around the Baron Pit. They've got little to no vision on the Dragon or the blue on their side. So you can see they've just lost Dragon. Now they're going to lose blue buff as well. And that looks like it's going to go to Genja, actually. So it does go. So piercing arrow spam, once again, they're really going to be relying on this long-range poke under the tower. And as soon as somebody goes down low enough, Jace, Varus, and Jarvan are just going to destroy those structures.
Right now, SK are actually coming out of base here to try and defend this bottom inner turret, which, honestly, not sure that they can really contend with whatsoever. They're happy to do the damage that they've done and back away. Shen is actually split pushing here out of the base, and, well, I don't think Gambit needs to be too worried about that, to be honest. He's not going to get there fast enough. You know, that if they just start pushing up middle, he's going to have to come back anyway.
Yeah, in addition, their damage is just so much higher. Elise, Jason, Varus, if they all hit the same target, like a cannon, even with that Zhonya's Hourglass, he's going to go down very, very quickly. So Gambit are pretty much saying, well, you can split push, but whoever you put the shield on, we're pretty confident we can burst through that quickly enough. And thanks to him being out of position, Gambit now stack up as a 5-man and start to try force their way onto this inhibitor, which had respawned a very short while ago. A recall from Kevin is coming out. There goes a lot.
They're going in here, but he gets knocked back by Jason. That's going to throw it off completely here for them. Cataclysm goes down in the middle. We see the crescendo not doing too much. Candy Panda going to be taken out by Darien. There goes the bear, and this is not good news for SK Gaming. Ocelot going to pop the Zhonya's. He's going to get pounced on as soon as he comes back up. Double kill for Alexic, and it's once again Shen that's left to his his own devices. Gambit could win the game right here, right now. 30 seconds on the Sona spawn, and Gambit are going to go for the victory.
Look at the HP bars there for Gambit. They are so low. Simply put, the damage threats from SK were not enough. Kevin gets a good taunt onto Alexich, probably the strongest tower-taking member, but it's not going to be enough. He goes down to 4 more members of Gambit. That is an ace coming out for Gambit, 15-10. They pick up their second victory here in Moscow in pretty convincing style once they got to the mid-game.
Solid performance, and as you said, the early game, not the worst, not the best that they've ever had, that's for sure. SK came out strong, set plan, went about their ways well in the start of it, put Gambit here on the stage. You can see what it means to them to win games like this in front of their fans. And, well, they just proved too strong here for once again for SK Gaming, who, well, their woes continue here, Quick Shot.
Yeah, there's it's something that they're going to have very difficult team talks tonight. You've seen the crowd giving them a standing ovation, and congratulations all around for the game. SK looking better and better with each game, but unfortunately not good enough to pick up victories.
Not good enough indeed. We're going to head over to the analysis desk where Demon and Jason are going to break down that amazing matchup.
Yes, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And just look at that standing ovation, as you mentioned. You see Gambit out the front there. A round of applause. All of these players have actually been effectively answering questions as well on the community booth that Riot have here. And no surprise that they did come back and win there. You know, SK Gaming were taking it to them for a while there. It was 5-1 up in kills, but it was all about that dragon fight. It just turned everything horribly on its toes. And then SK, as the advantage got, and I was talking to you off air, and it's just like, SK seemed to get ahead, and they kind of try and rush to win.
Yeah, the thing about Gambit is you can beat them in the laning phase. Typically what I saw in Spring Split, like you'll have more kills than them, but you'll never have more gold than them. Like they always go even with you just in terms of how they farm. They always keep up with you, and they like to focus around certain objectives. But the dragon fight, I mean, you're right. Like SK, I guess they thought they were a little farther ahead than they actually were, went into it and paid the price for it. And I'm actually not sure how you fix something like that. I don't know if it's the call, or maybe it's just a mistake, or maybe it's just the fight you're not playing it correctly, but something's got to give. Like, something's got to be fixed.
Well, let's not hang around. Let's get into the replay in a moment, because this was effectively the game-changing fight. And I honestly question Hercubot's target. He went in and flipped in and effectively threw Diamond Procs in towards Nif.
Yeah, it was... Okay, so we've seen this happen quite a bit in terms of teams. They don't... Well, okay, they know who to focus. I'm not going to say they don't. But it's whether or not they have the ability to actually do that. Like, to be able to get to them or something like that. You know, we mentioned a game earlier where if you leave them open to attack, they're going to... Like, especially the AD carry. If you leave him alone, he's going to attack your team, even 23 minutes in, which is where our replay is going to be about. They're going to constantly attack you and make you pay for it. So yeah, 23 minutes in, 1-5. SK is up right now. They're up about 900 gold, 2 turrets to 2. But it's the big fight that changes the game around. So let's get the replay on screen and show you exactly what happens, and show you what Demon means about Herky, about flipping Diamond Procs in, and kind of how it unfortunately didn't work out too well for them. So we'll just play it here. SK did have positional advantage over him, and Herky flashes for the flip. See, that's where we're both confused. It's like, if you're going to flash here for the flip, why not just flash maybe there? Or there, or something like that, or maybe just save it for a little bit. So they go in, and it's like Diamond's like, all right, I'll take that, as he decides to go in for the fight anyways. He gets right on top of Nif, who almost blows him up instantly. And Trevor points out, the arrow actually hits Diamond Procs. It doesn't hit Genja, who's sitting back here attacking for free. It doesn't touch Darien, who's sitting there attacking for free. And they try to kill Diamond Procs, but they just don't have the damage. The crescendo, it doesn't touch Genja, it doesn't touch Darien, it doesn't touch Alex, who just arrives for the fight. And you're going to see them you just kind of pay for the price for that. And you know, Chain of Corruption was very well put down. Genja still not being touched here, neither is Alex. And SK looked like they had a very strong team fight here as they do chase him down, but just Alex like, hey, what's up, I have a hammer. We're going to kill you, we're going to turn this around right on top of you. And it's... I don't want to criticize SK about in terms of, you know, what happened there in the fight. Like, it's very hard to get a position to attack the back line. It really is.
But I would question... actually going in, it's like, if
the decision
he went into the charge and it was like, well, you're not gonna get it, so just back off.
Right.
But they said it was like, go, go, go.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like,
it's a split-second decision, of course.
Yeah, and it's like a big play can make a big opportunity for you. It's like what's the phrase I'm thinking of, Demon? Help me out.
I don't know. What is the phrase you're thinking of? How do I know what's
high risk, high reward. Yeah, you have no idea what's going on in my mind. Most people don't.
No, nobody does.
But high risk, high reward is what I'm saying. And that was high risk, high reward.
Oh, high risk, high reward. I can make out your words.
Okay, well, yeah,
you went all American on me.
Oh, God. Well, that's what I was saying. And it's one of those moments where if you pull off this high risk move and it works out, you get such a big lead from it and you can kind of snowball it. But on the downside, if you mess it up, you can lose the game.
Absolutely. Well, without further ado, we want to get over towards the main stage because, you know, there's a big old crazy Russian stage out there and they really want to see their main man. This time, though, it is going to be the support, the temporary support, who I think may well be making his place cemented in that team. It's going to be Darker alongside Shocks.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Darker, the support player for Gambit. Another great victory against SK Gaming, but an applause first. I think that is in order. But the early game was not easy for you guys. A lot of pressure there. So how did you turn it back in your favor?
Well, we picked kind of weak lanes. We left Sona, for example, on purpose. And we already know that bottom lane going to be hard if they send 2 against 2. So early game was like really hard for us. Yeah, we were behind in CS, and we were forced to back often. But later, when we started to grow up, we did some reasonable trades with them. For example, like we took Drakes for one first turret and stuff like that, and we kind of got better position from it. So, and in team fighting, we just kind of outplay them. That's it.
Thank you.
Даркер, скажи, пожалуйста, в прошлом сезоне вы занимали первую позицию в рейтинге, однако весной спустились до 2-й позиции. Вы намерены вернуть лидерство к концу этого сезона?
Ну, команда Gambit в прошлом сезоне играла с другим игроком, с Эдвардом. Я сейчас заменяю его, играю на его позиции. Естественно, мы приложим все усилия для того, чтобы показать высший уровень игры и стать первыми в этом сезоне. Для того, чтобы представить Россию на мировых финалах.
И зрители в этом помогут команде Gambit Gaming.
Finally, Darker, it must be some 2 weeks for you. You just got into the summer split, and in the second week, you get to play and win in front of the home crowd. What does that do to a man?
Well, it's really important, and I'm really happy to play with such an amazing crowd in front of my own Russian citizens. Like, it's so amazing. I love Moscow, and I love pretty much all Russian crowd. It's like just, I can't even describe my feelings. It's too hard. Like, it's really amazing feeling. Спасибо за поддержку всем. Gambit чемпион, мы еще всем покажем.
Thank you very much. Now time to go over to Demon and Jason one last time to recap the day's action.
Thank you very much, and well, it's great to see as a bit of emotion kicking in for Darker there. He's happy to finally get some words out to the Russian crowd, who have honestly been magnificent. They were tense for a while, you know, back in the scene, team was like 5-1 down, and honestly, the crowd had started to quiet a little bit once that kill, once that Elixir shot landed onto Kevin in that top lane. Blind shot got him, and the crowd just went exploded. Absolutely, everyone went mental, and that was it. You know, Gambit just took the bit between their teeth, and as Crepo pointed out, you give them the finger, they'll take your arm. We've pointed it out many times, but that is exactly what's happened. Let's have a recap, though, of today's results, because there's been some pretty incredible matches today, and you can see there, first game of the day, well, it was SK versus Lemon Dogs, and Lemon Dogs, after a grueling journey here, honestly, managed to pick up their first win of the week. And of course, then it was Fnatic versus Evil Genius, as a pretty wild affair that both you and me covered. And Fnatic, well, after pretty much a lot of back and forward action, Fnatic finally managed to close out the win.
And look over at Lemon Dogs versus NIP, a very close game where we talked to Bjergsen after. He even said they probably should have lost it just from the get-go, but they pull out a win and take let's be honest, a much-needed win. And that was followed up by Alternate versus Meet Your Makers, which was ridiculously action-packed, probably one of the best games of the day, I have to say. And of course, after that, as you just saw, Gambit took the win over SK, and honestly, a really explosive match.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff. So let's check out how that makes it all work out in the league. As it is, at the top of the league, there it is, Alternate 6-1, but we now have new joint second places. Gambit, after that win there over SK, have managed to join Meet Your Makers at 5-2, but honestly, I don't know what's going on between those guys because everybody is playing so well at that top of the table. How is it going to develop over the week? Fnatic, they managed to pick up that win over Evo Geniuses, which took them to 4-3.
And of course, right behind that, Lemon Dogs 3-4 after their victory and loss today, which you have to give Tabs credit for. He was up at 6 in the morning as he arrived and was able to play extremely well. And then EG 2-5, Ninja's Pajamas with their win, bumps him up to 7th place at 2-5. And unfortunately for SK, 1-6. And honestly, looking back before the season started, I did not expect EG, NIP, SK to be at the bottom.
I mean, you're thinking SK, they had a pretty solid season. They finished third overall and then came 4th in the playoffs. But wow, I mean, they have been hit hard. And we were just talking about this while that match was going on. It's like, there is no easy matches. Not one of these teams can look at this and go, you know, that's an easy win. Because even SK then were taking Gambit for a run for their money.
Yeah, it's like, who do you play against to have that like breather room, like or the breathing game, where in terms of if you have 3 or 4 matches play that week in a super week, you need that time, I guess, a little extra time to prepare for certain teams, and no team really has that. And you really have to say that the teams in the spring split of LCS right now in Europe are just the best of the best. Like, it is ridiculous how good these teams are.
It's great to see the summer kicking up, of course. World Finals at stake, why not? This is the time you really should be hitting that form. Thank you very much, though, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be it from here in Moscow. We will be back, of course, tomorrow. We are going to get across to the main stage, though, with some vital final thoughts from Shocks.
Great day here in the MDM Palace in Russia, where we saw Alternate grabbing first place, but also that this is truly Gambit's house with 2 victories for the home team.
Ну что ж, друзья, сегодня на домашней арене команды Gambit мы увидели замечательные игры. Это был 2-й день, это были полуфиналы. Финалы будут завтра.
Yeah, Gambit already racked up 2 victories. We'll see what they can do tomorrow. Be sure to tune in tomorrow as we bring you our final day of LCS in action live from Moscow. We'll be kicking the day off with the title match of the CIS Regional Championship between Instruments of Surrender and Gaming Gear EU. And then it will be right back into our final 4 LCS matches of the weekend as SK goes up against Ninjas in Pajamas, Lemon Dogs take on Evil Geniuses, Alternate battles Fnatic, and Gambit finishes the day in a match with Meet Your Makers. It promises to be a great day of games and you won't want to miss it. The show will start at 2 p.m. Moscow time, that is 12 p.m. Central European Summer Time and 3 a.m. Pacific.
Ну что ж, друзья, завтра будет замечательный день. В финалах столкнутся все команды, которые только что назвала моя очаровательная соведущая Шокс. Друзья, увидимся завтра и обязательно посмотрим финал.
All right, that is us. That is it from us here today in Russia. It was an amazing day. Once again, we'll be back tomorrow for our final day from the MDM Palace in Moscow. До свидания!